All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. This is the February meeting of the Urban Ecology Collaborative, or the UEC. So welcome to the Urban Ecology Collaborative monthly meeting. We are a group of groups. We are focused in the New England and Mid-Atlantic regions, although we have been having a lot of interest from other areas, and we welcome that. And we meet virtually on the third Wednesday of every month to talk about urban forestry and related topics. Our Google Groups forum is for sharing upcoming events, research, jobs, urban forestry related topics, and it's also where we announce our upcoming meetings. And you can always catch up on a meeting that you missed or see what's going on, maybe revisit a favorite at our YouTube, which is YouTube at Urban Ecology Collaborative. So today we have a roundtable planned, and we are really excited to be talking about community engagement. So we're really excited to hear everybody's ideas on this call, but we wanted to start with some community updates and things like that. So think about maybe some updates from your region that you would like to share, anything from the winter that you feel really good about having planned going into spring planting season, fall planting season, any progress with your IRA grants or other projects you may be working on. And I actually wanted to start off, and I see Sam on the call, so maybe I'll hand it to Sam if Sam could do a better job. But I wanted to thank the Natural Areas Conservancy out of New York for a really amazing workshop in Miami in January. I'd never been to Florida, so when I got down there and saw that like stuff grows down there, I was just blown away, because we have to try really pretty hard in Boston to get things to grow. And it was a really great environment. And we had a network meeting of 19 different practitioner researcher teams from different cities across the United States. They were all really awesome practitioners to learn from and just exchange ideas with about forested natural areas. So we discussed everything from land protection of kind of forested natural areas or groups of trees and woodlands in cities across the country. And we really compared and contrasted different monitoring methods, different community engagement strategies, different land protection approaches. So I wonder, Sam, not to put you on the spot, but did you want to say anything about the workshop? It was a really great time. Thank you so much.
No, I think you did a really good job of describing the workshop. It was really exciting. Again, this was just our annual meeting of the Forests and Cities Network, and I left feeling really inspired about it. And yeah, being in Florida and seeing just the whole different context of urban ecology happening in the Miami region was really cool. And yeah, it was nice to meet everybody. And if you're interested in learning more, Erica just put a link in the chat to learn more about forests and cities.
Thanks so much, Sam. If anyone else has updates they want to share with the group before we get started, feel free to use the raise your hand feature or just unmute and give it a go. Everybody's planning their spring plantings and they don't have anything from the winter that to update on. That's totally fine. We can jump right to the discussion. Clara, I wasn't sure if you wanted to maybe be the main lead while we go through this, and just let me know if you want me to share my screen or how would work best for you to get started with the community engagement discussion.
Yeah, I think you can, if you want to share the screen, I could kind of take us in there. Yes, this is such an interesting topic, and I'm sure all of us in the urban environment, like the urban tree canopy space, are thinking about community engagement and, how do we really build trust? What does that look like on an individual level, on an organizational level? That's personally something that I'm thinking about a lot in my role as a tree equity manager. So we thought this would be a good topic for us to discuss. So in the Jamboard, which we're going to be sharing the information, the link here shortly, there are about 5 slides, I believe, that have some questions that we're kind of seeing trying to figure out what are people thinking about some of these questions. And maybe, Erica, I'll just read each slide with you kind of sliding through. But the first slide is asking, what are we collectively, or maybe you as an organization, doing to build trust before changing local communities or approaching them with plans created before you involve them in participation. So things may look like, maybe what networks are you building, or what kind of material are you sharing out? And maybe if you don't know, we could just think about this. Feel free to put any answers on that as we talk, or we could also just we'll go slide by slide. And if anybody wants to talk, they can. The second question on the slides is, how do we balance authentic community connections at a time, connections and the time and resources that it takes to build them within the environments, while timelines and budgets historically have come first. Usually we're looking at, these are the goals of the budget, these are the goals of the grant. We need to get so many trees in the ground, but how are we really balancing those authentic connections with the communities, with those, stressors that may be coming through with the time and budgeting? So it'll be interesting to see what people think about that. And the third question is, what types of events do you represent? Sorry, what types of events do you represent your program at? For example, are you showing up to community gatherings that are not necessarily connected to your organization's MO? Are you showing up to like tabling events? Are you attending other partner events? So those are the kind of things we want to kind of see. How are you kind of building that trust from your own perspective? And the fourth question is, what are creative ways of engaging as urban forestry researchers and practitioners with others? So again, very open all around that community engagement piece. The fifth question, I believe, I'm not losing track of my questions, is how do we show that we're listening to what's important to people in our work? I think sometimes it's hard when you know what the end goals are and you already kind of know your outlines, but people are telling you something different. How do you really show that you're listening to what the people that you're serving are saying? And then our last slide, which we really love a lot, is having glows and grows. So if you want to just jump straight to this point with the Jamboard talking about, something you've accomplished, learned, or you're proud of as it relates to community engagement, or maybe something that you want to learn more about and work to change about community engagement approaches. So those are the questions. I think maybe we can go through slide by slide, starting from the first one, to see what people are thinking. But then maybe if you have an anecdote or something that you want to just kind of unmute yourself, if you feel comfortable to do that, and just share a little bit, or if a different slide pulls you, feel free to tell us which one you want us to scroll to and we can talk about it. So the idea is for us to just have a dialogue, and no pressure. There are no right or wrong answers. I think we're all here learning together. So yeah,
Hi.
anything that can be shared.
Hi, can you
Yes,
hear me?
Evan.
Hi, my name is
Yes.
Evan. I'm an urban forester with Casey Trees. And I think what we've been doing that kind of pertains to these questions a lot within the last year or a couple of years is doing a lot of more outreach towards the community of, where we're targeting for tree planting sites. And also pairing together and partnering with, different entities like churches, um, parks, DPR, getting those sponsors going along with our events and our community tree plantings that we do. We've acquired a partnership with the Washington Wizards, and they are doing a reoccurring thing with us, where they're going to be bringing alumni and DJs and players out to our plantings. So they're going to be able to kind of make urban forestry more of an interesting event for the community. So I think, in regards to all of these questions, like getting out in front of, and just talking to people in the area that you are trying to do work in, and getting their point of view and their interests into what you're doing in a more genuine way is definitely something that we should be doing more of.
Yeah, I like when you say the Washington Wizards. I'm gonna reveal that I don't know sports, but I'm thinking it's a basketball team.
Yes,
No? Oh
yes,
gosh.
it's
Yay!
the NBA team.
A beautiful, beautiful sport. I was doing some door knocking yesterday, and we even went to a community center. And one of the things I was telling the colleague that I was walking with is, and if we put sports into forestry, like basketball, everyone's going to come out for this event because that makes sense culturally
Right.
for the community. So this is a really cool thing that you're doing to have the sports teams. At Tree Pittsburgh, we also kind of work with Davy Trees, who have been working with some of the sports teams in the community to do some engagement. But this DJ, that looks like it's going to be really amazing.
Yeah, over
Looking
at
forward to.
Banneker Rec Center, where a former player from them, Bradley Beal, he gave a lot of money towards renovating over there. So they're kind of tying that into, and you kind of have to bring it to them, these entities as a mutually beneficial thing, between the site, you all as an organization and their organization, and so we were able to parlay it and kind of highlight their initiative towards giving back to the community. And we at Casey Trees get more of a community base, and we're more able to sponsor these events where we are giving free trees to.
Amazing. Good work.
Yeah.
I see
Right.
Stella has her hand raised. I just want to point out, I just want to read really quickly Ayana's comment in the chat. She says, that's an amazing partnership. If y'all could do some outreach at Howard University, which is across the street from, I'm going to butcher that name, Banneker, your reach could be extended. So basically the university, Howard specifically university, would be a great
We would love to
outreach.
partner with Howard University.
I went to Howard
Amazing.
and I have a 3D vision. Banneker, yes, you got it right. Don't worry about it. But yes, Banneker is literally right across the street from Howard, and then this incredible partnership with the Wizards. I really feel, and there's actually a lot of green space at Howard, and there's a
Yes.
thriving environmental science program. I lived in DC with the Howard, obviously, so just hearing y'all say that is incredible. And I know that y'all could really get purchased at Howard.
Well, we
I'm
would
sure.
love to do that. We would love to do that. Any way that you can connect me with somebody at Howard that's manages the field grounds or the property,
Okay.
or has that decision making, I would love to talk to them.
All right, I'll make some calls. I'll send some emails. I'll
All
put
right. All
my
right.
info. Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Wow, this is amazing. Awesome. So Stella, I see your hand is raised. Please feel free to let us know.
I did. Thank you. I can't see everyone, but I can see you, Clara. So I'm Stella Turney with Capital Nature, and we're actually a nature engagement organization that's based in Washington, D.C., and we're big fans of Casey Trees. But we start from a different point, and it's very synergistic, I think, Evan, with what you were talking about. We at Capital Nature, we start with tree appreciation walks in the neighborhoods. So neighborhood tree appreciation walks, and we do them through the seasons. So we've done a couple of cycles now of spring through winter tree walks, and pretty soon people start asking, how can we help the trees? What can we do in our neighborhood to help keep the trees healthy? And then, of course, we say, well, there's Casey Trees and there's the Urban Forestry Division, but just starting with no ask appreciation walks of what people have is really a great way to build the relationship and the trust.
I love that. This is beautiful. And I think there's nothing better than putting people right in the nature to have them experience it in a way that's not transactional, but it's just, engaging. I see a couple of things on the slides. I know we have Gabby in the chat. Erica, is there anything that's popping out to you that you want to say that's different?
Yeah, I'd love to. I always appreciate having Baltimore on the call too. So we're kind of in the, we're in Maryland for the moment, but the pruning of the trees that have been planted 3 and 5 years ago in Baltimore. So here in Boston, we are just kind of starting, and my colleague Amara is on the call and is our community engagement manager. So they could maybe speak more to kind of their perspectives on this. But my perspectives have been that our program with our Inflation Reduction Act funding is for the first 2 years of trees that are planted through this new initiative in these more disadvantaged neighborhoods in Boston. And when we start talking about the 5-year structural pruning, I've just been kind of losing everybody because I don't think we're at that stage where we actually have tree keepers yet. We're trying to write our best management practices right now and trying to create like maybe more of a pathway up here for people to become an experienced urban forester or arborist, because we can't expect people to do the 3 years required for ISA. Like everyone can't do that as their profession. So I'm really interested in the tree keepers work, and I'm sorry, I'm not remembering who on the call put it in the chat, but I really wanted to point that out because having people pruning street trees and doing that structural stuff, I think changes the long-term outcome of the tree and the look and the safety and the feel of the entire neighborhood. So if anyone from Baltimore wants to talk, I love hearing from y'all. And so thank you for being on the call today and representing your work.
Yeah, Erica, happy to. I'm Darren Crew with Blue Water Baltimore. I've seen so many good meetings that you guys put on. I'm so jealous. I'm finally so glad to be here. So yeah, I'll hit a couple points. So we kind of like hide pruning costs in year 3 and 5 in every grant we write. So like, does that make sense? So we'll put in extra staff time to do that. We're doing our pruning events with volunteers who are both trained as tree keepers and not. So we're allowing folks to come out and we do a quick, my coworker Sean is right to my left, we'll do the kind of quick, and then we pair them up typically. So we might have a tree keeper within each group of 3. And I mean, it's like, if you think of like honoring, I mean, it takes a long time to raise a tree to full, like a kid. And so we view it as our equity and our commitment to the neighborhoods to make it so that the trees get taken care of and don't have maintenance issues. And our partners, our community partners love it because they see the trees blooming and they compliment the work, and it really reinforces. We have less homeowner interactions because people see that we've pruned those low branches that they hit with their car and they're getting out of it. So it's really a win-win. And we do it, so off season, we do it now. So we do like January, February. So it's a great rhythm. Summer maintenance is watering and other restaking, but winter is when we do our pruning. So we also have the tool bank in the city of Baltimore. You can rent equipment from there. But you're onto it. It's just like an evolution. We weren't pruning initially at first. We all learn and get better. I will say one thing about building trust is just going to meetings and hanging out with people like you talked about. So we had a neighborhood, Auchentrolley Terrace near Druid Hill Park. And at first, our community leader there was not about trees at all. And I was working with Miss Sandra right next to her in the Mondawmin neighborhood. And so Sandra's like, don't worry, Darren, we're going to get her on board. We just got to do our thing. And like, we started planting trees and working with the neighborhood and being authentic. And then eventually Miss Barbara Anderson Dandy came around. It was like, oh, Darren, I want to work with you guys. We need trees in our neighborhood too. So a lot of times it's just like going there and like, it's okay if it doesn't go good. You just keep coming back and just hang out. And a lot of folks you just earn your trust by being true and following through on commitments. So
Amazing. Thank you for sharing from Baltimore. Thank you, Darren. Gabby, please go ahead. I think you're muted.
Hello, there we go. Can you hear me? Okay. So I'm Gabby Elliott. I'm also from Casey Trees. Evan is my coworker. I just, kind of everything that I was thinking of was said in one way or another in the last couple of minutes. But I just kind of wanted to reiterate first that I really appreciate this question of building trust before you enter the community and start altering the landscape. so my kind of jurisdiction within Casey Trees is a lot of times in PG County, which is just outside DC, in parts of the county where there's just traditionally a lot of de-investment. Like there's just like trees have been planted there and then neglected. And because of this, residents are wary, justifiably, about these types of programs. So it's, you know, a lot of times the county will want to plant trees all throughout a neighborhood, and the residents just feel totally like blindsided by this. And it's so prevalent. Like I would go out and do kind of spec sites for plantings, and you would have, you know, people coming out and saying like, this isn't for us, right? Like they're not planting these trees because of us. They're planting these trees for their own agendas. They're planting these trees because they have a view of what they want this place to look like and how they want it to function, and it doesn't have anything to do with us. So like and we've, you know, you guys have already given so many great solutions and ideas and ways, strategies to combat that sort of thing. But I think that it's just so important to go into the communities before you start making these plans for how you want it to look, and really try to discern like what these communities want and need. And a lot of times what they are looking for will align with what you're trying to do. But it's building that trust that's so important. So similar to what was said before, we, with our IRA funding, one of our kind of outreach strategies is to go out and prune. We've been doing a lot of pruning this last couple of months. We also do pretty much all of our pruning in the winter. And the kind of idea behind that is we go out and we prune trees in these neighborhoods where we're hopeful people will be enthusiastic about planting in the future. So we go out and we prune the trees, and we talk to the residents, and they ask us what we're doing, and we describe it, and we talk about the funding that's available, and we talk about how we're investing in the community, in the safety, and in the health of the trees that exist right then and there. And then that kind of helps to build that relationship, to show that we're invested in the community and not just in our mission, regardless of what the community is looking for. So yeah, that's all I wanted to kind of throw out there, is just, I think a lot of times organizations kind of do that backwards. They try to plant first and then use that to like get it integrated into the community. It needs to be the other way around. Like you need to be there first, showing them that you're there because you care about them, because you want to help their community, as opposed to doing it for, you know, your own mission or your own numbers.
Wow. Okay, Gabby, dropping mics. My internet is a little unstable, so I apologize if I go a little choppy. I'm just going to pull up Rachel and then Kimberly after that. I don't know, Miss Stella, your hand's still raised. I don't know if it's from previously, but if it is, I apologize for skipping you. But Rachel, please go ahead for now.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel Comte. I'm with Urban Canopy Works. I worked on the Urban Forest Master Plan in Boston I see Erica here. Hi, Erica. One of the things that we did there, and we are continuing to do in other cities that we're working in, is we build in an equity council when we're doing an Urban Forest Master Plan. So we have representatives from disadvantaged, underserved communities serve as we have a large advisory group, but they serve as a subset of that. So not only do they go through the process of the advisory group goes through, but also we have individual meetings with them. And two things about that. So one, we know that for people who are struggling to put food on the table, they don't have time to serve on a committee, or, you know, who has time to do that? So we do budget in a stipend for those folks, and we actually recruit them to, you know, we want to make sure that they're there and they have a voice. And then also in Boston, and we're doing this in Louisville now, we task them with the ability to set the plan goals for the entire community. And so you give them put their voices first. And I know this question in here is like before coming to them with a plan, but this is kind of how we include them in the plan. And also I would say too, when we went through this in Boston, when we set the goals, you know, we asked the question, what does success look like that day where you could say we did it? And at no point did the Equity Council members ever mention a canopy goal. You know, what they wanted was a seat at the table when decisions are being made. They wanted resources that come up to be prioritized for areas in need. They wanted proactive care and increasing awareness of the value of trees. So, and those are the goals for the Boston Plan. And so they're less quantifiable, but no less important. And so I think that goes towards, it's a lot of it's kind of going towards repairing relationships between the city and the community. So.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Rachel. The planning
Thank you for
process
sharing.
that you guys all did and the plan that we have, now we're working on the implementation part of different pieces of it. And it has been something that's been mentioned multiple times, is like, can we keep the Equity Council going while we're doing the Inflation Reduction Act grants? And we did just get a public land tree ordinance, and the community is asking for a private land tree ordinance. That has not been rolled out yet, but inside the public tree ordinance, there was the creation of and it's not happening until March, but the creation of a shade tree advisory, like an additional protection committee. Boston has not had a shade tree committee or a tree committee in the recent past. So I think the approach that you guys did and like the example that you set really did get those voices in the room, and it has worked. Amara is in contact with like a lot of those folks who were kind of involved with some of that urban forest planning, and yeah, just trying to extend and think about like the longer life of the tree. I mean, in Boston, we've had people where, you know, there may have been times where someone has rejected a tree in the past, and it's honestly really cool because they're actually thinking of that tree, making it to like a 40-inch size and then falling over. Like they're actually thinking of the tree in this long-term way. Whereas sometimes I think, you know, with shorter term projects and like funding systems that are only funding like 2 years of maintenance or similar lengths of time, that's not thinking of the tree for that proactive care throughout the life. So thanks for commenting on that. I'm excited about what you're doing in Louisville. It's good to see you again, Rachel.
Great. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. It's already 10:30. We have 5 more questions. Cimbria, is it Cimbria? I don't want to say it wrong the second time.
Yeah, it's Cimbria. You said it right the
If
first
you
time,
please
and I was
unmute
gonna thank
yourself,
you
ask
for
your
that.
question.
Thank you
I
so
said
much.
it, I said it right the first. Oh, Cimbria.
Yeah, that's great. And what a great group. You guys are gonna be really helpful. We haven't gotten the city to actually sign the grant award papers yet because we have a new administration. So they seem like they're on board. We've met with the school. We're going to be doing a lot of really fun stuff. So in approaching, so I moved to Utica about 6 years ago, and I asked what would be the best way to be accepted by the local community, the disadvantaged communities. And some very kind people told me just go to the meetings and sit in the back and listen. And if you have something to offer it, and just keep showing up. And if you promise to do something, do it. So I've been doing that for 6 years, and it's starting to pay off, except that it's really hard. Many of these organizations have been excluded for so long that they don't have the funding to be able to take on major, they don't have the staff, they don't have the processes, the systems. So having them, you know, once again, what's different this time? Why should we take you seriously this time? And all of that. The trust building is really important. So I'm a permaculture designer and teacher, and I help with design charrettes, which hopefully you guys know what that is. And so what my piece will be the outreach and helping the community with the designs of the areas. And what we'll do is we'll host the meetings in these community centers or churches, or, you know, somewhere where people can walk to attend the meetings, not have it at City Hall or someplace downtown where nobody lives, you know. And people with transportation, people with children, we're going to try to arrange for childcare and food and stipends, all of those things. And I'm telling people about this now. And I've already done some work through I'm on the New York State community action panel for extreme heat. And so I've already hosted an event where people got paid $300 for 2.5 hours of their time. So I've already gotten people's attention. I don't think I'll be able to pay them that, but I want to pay them something. So really, we'll be doing inventories, and I will contact the leaders in the communities and the neighborhoods and tell them we're going to be in your neighborhood on this day. Please come and join us. I've already gotten some, the street teams who deal with the gun violence. They're very interested in attending. So we haven't even really gotten the award yet, but I've been out there for a while trying to get people's attention and let them know I'm going to show up, and I'm not going to promise them anything I can't deliver, and then try to do that. And so there's such a wealth. This is such a fun place to be, because you all have great ideas like the tool library, and just, it's so comforting to come to a place where this is already happening and I can learn from all of you. So thank you so much for including me in this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cambria. Surely your efforts are going to yield fruit, and congratulations on having people already signing on before you get the funding. I hope everything goes well as you move forward. Georgina, please let us know what you're thinking, and then we'll move to the next question after this.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight something that we have been adapting for our project. So we do a lot of ecosystem restoration projects, and in partnership with the U.S. Forest Service, we developed this thing called the social assessment, and it's a protocol that is a structured protocol for assessing how people are currently using a space. And you can do observations of just people on site, and then see how their past use is also affecting the site, like desire lines and like informal seating areas. And then you can do interviews with people and ask them questions like, what do you like about this place? Why do you come here? How far do you have to go to come here to get there? And so I just wanted to highlight one of the goals for the next couple of years is to develop a toolkit that can be shared with others around this protocol. The reason why we've found this so helpful is that a typical parks kind of community engagement process in New York City is we go to like a community board meeting and we tell them what the plan is, and we get like at a certain level of design, and then they tell us what they think about it. And this is definitely kind of pre that process, bringing in community voices. And at the community board meetings, people hear that we've done this work, and they're very appreciative that we're not just sort of like coming up with a plan ahead of time. And I think one of the things that I guess I want to say is like, we don't have a lot of outreach kind of capacity. And so this kind of fits in with what we already have. So it's like, it's a way for us to do better within the current constraints. And I'm hopeful that by showing how well this is going, we can like push farther to improve our community engagement. So.
Thank you. Wow, the Jamboard is full. Stella, is your hand still raised from previously, or if you want to unmute and just tell me, I'm going to move.
Sorry.
Okay, just want to. No worries. Let's go to the next question and see how far we can go. It's already 10:36. So fun. The question is, how do you balance authentic community connections and the time, resources it takes to build them within the environments where timelines and budgets historically come first? I think Cambria showed us 6 years later, she's still building relationships and now funding is coming through. So really, what does that look like for folks? Can you make it a little bit bigger? I could read these stickies, if you want to just read them out for us, Erica, what you're seeing. That may be helpful.
I think when I zoom in, it like makes them smaller. So
that's so weird.
I'll just make them, I'll just size them. So this one says that it could be best if you can build relationships with key individuals well ahead of a project with deadlines. So New York City parks can benefit from volunteer engagement in that type of a way. I think that's great because like what we're seeing in Boston is we have people who have been kind of in the conversation, right? They've been showing up to the meetings for a while. There may be like tree advocate type folks in different neighborhoods that have trees that they care about, that they've been protecting for years, and that's really important work. So I think it is really important to actually value folks who are already in this space while bringing in new individuals that might be their neighbors or new to the neighborhood, and could be real allies in understanding the spaces better. So thanks for that from New York City. And then this one says include funds for communities. So money for associations or other partners, Cash App or gift cards for resident volunteers or other community priorities. I think that's great. It's been mentioned a few times to do stipends and to somehow compensate people for their time and their opinions, because it does feel really extractive, I think, when you over survey a community and you ask them for their information that's part of their daily life, but you haven't really expressed or shown that you live a similar life, or you have a similar issue in your community if you don't live in the same neighborhood as them. I think it's been really good to see stipends coming up for folks who do things like sit on equity councils or who are involved in stakeholder processes, that it does ask for a lot of time in reviewing. And I think also there's one thing that I wanted to mention just about some of my personal experiences up here, working in the nonprofit space in the city of Boston, is I'm an arborist, like certified arborist, and I do a lot of stuff with trees for my profession. And then sometimes when we're doing a project, like what is the arborist's role in that? I think sometimes, and I'd love to hear others' thoughts on this. I think sometimes people want to put the arborist in the arborist box and not have them going out to community events and not have them responding directly to constituent emails. I have to say that when I am facilitated and when I am responding directly to constituent emails, they love talking to someone who is a certified arborist. It actually gives them a different perspective than one that unfortunately I've actually heard quite a bit recently, which is this perception that arborists just cut trees or just kill trees for money. I've been hearing that a little bit recently. I don't know if other people have, but it really gets to me because I don't think we'd be doing this work if we didn't love trees and people at the same time. So I see the crying emoji, Clara. But that's just one thing. And then I'll just read this. Plan for time to marinate with your neighborhood and your partners so that someone needs to lead the listening and building the partnership and including that. Yeah, how do you get that time for the urban foresters, the arborists, the community leaders, the artists, the sports team members, the alumni of the different universities? Like, how do you plan and advocate successfully with, especially with funders, in my opinion, that is valuable time, even though it doesn't have like a outcomey type outcome attached right to it. And I'll stop talking with that, but
Thank
yeah,
you,
great
Erica.
comments.
I think, first of all, Phil said arborists are an amazing resource during planting and stewardship projects. Perhaps include a station for, for experts to answer questions during community events. And of course, informal training. I do like the informal training piece, and yeah, the station for experts. Ask the arborist, ask the tree doctor. I like that. Yeah, there's something that came to my mind when you were speaking, Erica, and it's completely disappeared. Maybe it will come back again. Around, yes, the time building. It seems many organizations need to have a community engagement person where like you have people who are doing funding, you have people who are doing projects implementation, but you need to have that person who, or at least a group of people, and I don't know how other people are doing it, if you're rotating staff, so that everybody knows what this is all about. Like, what does it look like for us to actually be in the communities, and what does it look like for arborists to take time to attend a community event if they're, you know, really going to be mostly pruning trees? But I know it's a time thing and sometimes a funding issue, but it's probably something worth building in as you're thinking about marinating. I like that word, marinating that relationship and adding more flavor to what that is. Are there any other comments in the chat? Darren said they offer stipends to neighborhood partners using Cash App and payments to volunteers at $30 each are included in grants. That's really cool, Darren. Nothing like paying people for their time. Kimberly, you have your hand raised again. Please go ahead.
Yeah, again, it's what event you're going to. We have a farmer's market, and it's not in any of the disadvantaged communities, and people, they wonder why I'm actually serving on that advisory board too. And we're, they're like, why aren't people coming down? I said, why aren't you having the events in their neighborhood? Let's create a food oasis on a Wednesday afternoon. You bring the market, there are vendors who would probably love to have more than one day to be able to access communities. There's like 130 Black businesses in the city. Let's have, Black Market Day in some of these communities, Black and Brown, or we have a huge Karen population. We speak 46 languages in our schools. So it's in the disadvantaged communities are very diverse. So there's a way to do it as long as the powers that be will let you do it. And when I suggested that, people were like, well, I'm not sure we're allowed to do that for the grant. And I'm like, well, we gotta translate what they want into what we need, so it's really about targeting the events where the people are already and going to them, and not just reinforcing existing systems. So thank you.
Thank you. I agree. Meet people where they are and speak a language that they understand. And then maybe you're talking together as humans. Jonathan, please let us know what you're thinking.
Hey, you've been hearing a lot from us, but I also work at Casey Trees. Meeting people where they're at. So a big part of our kind of planting repertoire is planting on private property. So like people's houses, single family houses. And there's a lot of that in DC. So it's like we've also been trying different things and kind of meeting people where they are and getting community input that way, which we been pretty good at. We have like a website. We've just been kind of blasting our website to people so they can come directly to us and we can talk to them about the trees that way. But we have a data team and we kind of have pinpointed where urban heat islands are, and then we can kind of pinpoint those neighborhoods and then kind of sort of door knock. We also pay folks. We have a grant to pay people to door knock with us. There's an organization called Ward 8 Woods. I don't know. I'm kind of choppy, so sorry about that. There's an organization called Ward 8 Woods that we kind of give stipends to door knock and give out information to, which has been sort of successful. So that's kind of a good thing in the right direction in certain wards in Washington, D.C. So we have good partnerships with like universities, schools, and things like that. But the kind of like biggest kind of opportunity for tree planting in terms of square footage is single family homes. So there's a lot of challenges with that. A lot of people that own their property tend to be older, and the older people are, the less they want trees because they get expensive. People don't like raking leaves, which is number one on things I hear why people don't want trees. And Maslow's hierarchy, trees are kind of down here. So kind of like selling them on that to get it up here is kind of my biggest challenge.
I must agree with you deeply with what you've just shared. Thank you, Jonathan. More things on the slide you want to say? Shout out any pieces that are jumping out.
Well, I kind of just want to follow up with Jonathan, because our Inflation Reduction Act piece that Amara and I are working on is a private property one in Boston, where so everything's crammed together. And I heard there was an urban tree symposium at the New England Botanic Garden a few weeks ago, and I had heard from John Rogan and Deb Martin, I think I'm getting Deb's name correct. They are studying, urban forestry. They're doing the heat island thing. They're doing assessing planting programs in Massachusetts on private properties in their Clark University partnership. So it's kind of a very similar thing going on. And one of the things I just want to relay that I learned from that work was that it was very common for people who are newly purchasing homes to cut trees down, like as one of their first things that they were doing. So when home ownership was changing, trees were being cut kind of at that juncture, which is very interesting with all the research that this group probably is familiar with how a tree in front of your house can positively influence your property value, which in the past has been a very I think, based on my reading, has been a very key way to get people to buy trees, is like that incentive of the home value later. And I'm wondering, like, with this demographic, and maybe Jonathan, you would want to respond, but with this demographic change and home ownership change, like, I don't own a home. I don't know if I'll ever own a home, right? It's like, how do you think people are going to be changing from this moment going forward? Do you think that some of your trees are gonna make it to that property value influence? Do you think you're gonna have people cutting them down?
That's a good question. I personally have had several homeowners or properties that have changed ownership. So someone had wanted a Casey Trees tree 2014, and then they'll come back in 2024, 2023. There'll be a new owner of the same property, but they want more trees. But that really depends on where they are in the city. I'm generally in Ward 7 and 8. So that's like those historically Black, historically disadvantaged communities in Washington, D.C. So most of the time, people that own their property are boomers. They're older generation. So and then people who are younger are like seen as being gentrifying the neighborhood, and they want trees. So it's like folks see that as terraforming the neighborhood, and they don't want anything to do with that. So which is why Gabby's point, coming to them where they are before the tree planting, so it doesn't look like we're just coming in serving only a certain sect of people. But to answer your question, in terms of people cutting down trees when they move in, some folks do, some folks don't. I haven't really seen that, but I do kind of see that as a kind of like, I own the home now, I have dominion, I can do what I want type thing. And then they can get a new tree from Casey Trees, because I do get a lot of like site visits where they'll ask me about new trees, but then they'll ask me about, hey, what do you think about this tree over here? Should I cut it down? Generally it's a no, but sometimes it's a yes. It really depends. But more often than not, people don't ask me to come to their house to ask about cutting trees down. It's definitely generally about planting trees. But we do site visits a lot on a lot of different kinds of property, and most of the time our trees are still there. In terms of like health, they're good, still there in terms of like regard. So hopefully that keeps the track. But like Gabby was saying, we're moving further into Maryland, and we'll see how it goes once we do that, 10 years down the line.
Thank you. Wow. Yes. Rachel says in the chat, I live in an urban area, and when we have suburban people move in, the first thing they often do is what they call refresh, in quotes, their tree, meaning cut down and replace. It's so frustrating. Yes, I feel you, Rachel. Yeah, the whole property value thing is a big issue, even in Pittsburgh here, when we're moving into neighborhoods that have been that maybe have a lot of vacancy and not a lot of home ownership. So people are already feeling like they're being pushed out of their neighborhood by bringing trees. If you're talking about it increasing property values, I almost feel like that's a deeper conversation on a policy standpoint, because I feel like everyone deserves to be healthy. And that's a very contentious question that every time we bring it up, it brings a lot of feelings from different directions. But I think if we start looking at trees as like a right, as health infrastructure that needs to be incorporated, then it could ease some of those fears that people's property values are going to raise, and then they're going to be moved out. But it's a challenge in Pittsburgh too that we face as we're trying to build this relationship and ask people. One thing that helps us in Pittsburgh is our relief programming, at least at Tree Pittsburgh. We try to use that relief programming to build that partnership and get the buy-in from the community to see where they want trees, how they're experiencing their neighborhood, knowing that we have implementation funding, but working directly with steering committee folks and surveying people, going to community meetings to then share out these plans and get feedback from folks. And that's been a little bit helpful in making it like we're part of this conversation that's an ongoing dialogue in the neighborhood. I'm always happy to talk to people if they want to learn more about our program. I think there's a recording a couple meetings ago. Is there anything else popping out for you, or should we move to the next question, Erica? I think we could move to the next one. We have about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think we have like 9 minutes left. So I was maybe we should go through and just look and see what's on some of these. So what types of events do you represent? I love the barbecues one. Can I come? Where's my invitation? That's something that I have one comment about this from the pandemic. So before I was at Mass Audubon, I was working at the Emerald Necklace Conservancy, and there was some very interesting conversations about park use at that time. Franklin Park is a 527-acre park, and it borders some of Boston's environmental justice communities. It's also part of the Emerald Necklace. It's the crown jewel of the Emerald Necklace, and so it's an Olmsted designed park, and a lot of different pieces of it have been privatized or turned to other uses like a golf course and a zoo and things like that. But there are still forested natural areas in Franklin Park, and there's a lot of community spaces that are used in different ways. And just what I was seeing at that time was that, like, during the pandemic, that was when people needed really to be out in that park like every day. And so there were a lot of changed uses, and just to watch the conversation about, like, trying to keep people safe by encouraging social distancing in parks, and where that message was coming from versus how some communities were like having these weekly, like, supportive kind of like barbecue type like settings in the park, and the park was still being used as a social justice demonstration grounds, which it has been for many, many years. So that barbecues just sparks that image of Franklin Park being used at its pretty much like maximum capacity during the pandemic. And it was really great to see the space being used that way for me.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Erica. I see something, BBT does this as well. Well, the presenting at community board meetings. I'm sure this is Baltimore that's saying this. Yeah, that does this as well. And we see that it has been a good way to facilitate dialogue around trees and learn more about the interest of the community. Yes, I'm going to go to some meetings with fans, like emoji fans, and I'm going to give everybody a fan, and they're going to respond with a fan to tell me what they think about stuff. It's been a hit in a previous meeting that I attended. I'll let y'all know how it goes. But, trying to bring something, exciting, well, maybe not, but something that they could use again, maybe at church if they needed to, if it's too hot out there. But
I love
yes.
that idea. Can you share more about that?
Well, I'll share the fan picture. It's just, an emoji fan with multiple fans, and people just kind of responding to priorities that I'm going to be putting out that's going to go into their neighborhood tree plan. But they'll be I'll kind of use the number of fans in the space to count. It's just a fun way to make it less, to make it more engaging for folks, especially if they don't want to stand up and go to a board and use sticky notes and that kind of charades. But it's
I'll
yeah,
Google
fans.
emoji fans. I've never heard of them. I think that's brilliant. Thank you.
Yes. You can even have artists make them. Yeah, it could be an interesting way to engage different groups.
Yeah.
All right. So the next slide, if you want to go through that one too. And maybe choppy, Erica, if you want to speak for this one. Oh, no one answered. It's okay.
Well,
but I did like
we always only have
I like
an
the Ask
hour.
the Arborist, right? The Ask the Arborist thing was really cool way of engaging urban forest researchers with others. I think that table with the Ask Arborist piece was really cool. And maybe that's a creative way to do that.
One of the things I found is
You like the poop?
does it work, because I think that sometimes, if you're an really experienced arborist, right, like years and years, and you've gotten to this level where your value is maybe perceived as like, oh, well, we get the most out of the, and this is a terrible way to talk about a person, but like we get the most out of this person when we use them in production planting, right? But what if that person wants to be at the community engagement as well? Like, I feel like there's some professional development pieces that get missed, of like, the arborist isn't just an expert on trees. Like, the arborist also really cares about passing on their knowledge to other people in a lot of cases. So things like what the women's tree climbing workshop does, not everyone has to be a climber, tree pruner. Like, that is not, there are many ways to be there are many different ways to be an arborist, but I really love what the Women's Tree Climbing Workshop has been doing, where it's like you're passing on team building knowledge. You're setting a culture for a weekend of like, why are we all here collectively, like, talking about trees? So almost like for the internal profession as well, like not just engaging with community members who we view as not arborists, but like also being like, well, everybody has potential to kind of be a part of this arborist community if we let our arborists who are like rock stars at this actually kind of like if we see their time talking to people as valuable, and maybe it's not as valuable as their time actually working on each tree, but it might be more valuable than them working on a tree that day if they're able to show their skills and their depth of their caring to a group of people who could then form a neighborhood coalition for trees. Just a couple of soapboxy type ideas that I've been thinking
While
about.
you have the stage. Yeah, Erica and Clara, such a great conversation. All of these. Of course, I couldn't help but chime in on this question related to researchers. Now, it sounds like a lot of this work happens on the weekends, and that's when people are home or at the laundromat. I put a few things in the chat of where even UEC has engaged in surveys at laundromats over the weekend. And as even if we go out and start stewarding trees, pruning these trees on the weekend, people are in their yards or they see you out there. Of course, they want to engage with you. What are you doing in my neighborhood? And hopefully, since you're giving to the community, it builds trust pretty quickly. They'll start out with suspicion, but hopefully, in your engagement with them, you might recruit them and involve them. I'm sure many of you have had that experience, and I'll just put that as a sticky here. That is, maybe you will, that's authentic engagement. That's what researchers need. We can't do our work without some level of authenticity in our engagement. And when folks are when it's in their neighborhood and in their street and on their yards, that's when trust, the speed of trust is sped up, I think. Thanks.
Wow, thank you, Phil. What a way to wrap us up. Nothing like bringing the researchers into the neighborhood and working collaboratively with practitioners. I think that's the best way. And thank you for all your work. I also saw somebody say that the U.S. Forest Service had a whole museum exhibit of their work. I think I said that right. Yes, I think they said U.S. Forest Service. Maybe they didn't
Yeah,
say
the Arboretum in Baltimore has, Nancy Santi has put up just a wonderful exhibit. She won't take credit for it, but it was all her vast expertise was contributed to that nursery, that Arboretum. And Arboreta, right? That's a great place to engage with people who love trees and are there with their kids on the weekends, and they're interested in science, and their audience is like perfect for us, at least low-hanging fruit in many ways.
No pun intended, but yes, I couldn't help it. So thank you, everybody. Wow, it's already 10:59. I want to give this back to you, Erica, see how we want to close us out. But this has been amazing. Go back to the Jamboard. We'll send information out soon. This couldn't have been a better dialogue. So thank you so very much for your input. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. As always, we will send out our recording and our links. The Jamboard will stay live, so if you want to add some more thoughts or some specific examples or links to your work, places where we can learn more, I'm sure that the email thread would love to hear from that. And next month, I think we have, so I know we're running down on time here, but next month is March, and I think we're going to hear from Mia.
Yes.
Claire, did you want to say, I think it's climate adaptation.
Yes, she's doing work on climate adaptation. She has a really wonderful symposium later down I think in April. You want to be here. She's going to be sharing some of her work and ways that we can be able to sign up for that. So look forward to learning from Mia.
And I see in the chat, this group is the bomb. That is true. This group is always so much fun. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you next month.
Thank you.